Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you some books for beginners. I've got totally 15 books in this recommendation list and I have considered 4 main criteria for curating this list. The first one is that even if some of these books are big in size and page count, all of them are very quick reads. The second one is that the language of all these books is very easy, so that even if you're a beginner, you can just go with the flow and read the books as such without consulting your mobile phone or the dictionary continuously. The third one is that all of these books are page turners. I'll not say that every book in this is fast paced, but while you're reading the books, I'm sure that you'll want to know what's going to happen next in the story. And the last of all these 4 criteria is the most important one which I considered. It is that after reading any of these 15 books, you will definitely have the desire to pick up more books in the future and read a lot. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. The first book is one of my most favorites from 2020 and it is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. The reason that I'm suggesting this as the first book in this list is because it is written in verse and none of the other books I'm recommending in this list are written in verse. In verse means that the entire story of the book is written using poems, and you might think that I said that the language is easy, but if it's written in poems, how it is easy for a beginner to understand? All the poems that are written by the author are very simple and easy to comprehend in every level possible. And also the story is also very compelling. It is about these 2 girls named Camino and Yahaira who have a common father, but they don't know that their father has another family living in different parts of the world. There is this particular incident that happens in the beginning of the book that sets up the meeting of these 2 daughters for the same common father, and from there a beautiful sister relationship starts bonding between them. It's actually the story of them coming together rather than seeing their sisterhood bond developing as a whole. But I'm definitely sure if you're a beginner, you'll find this very easy to read and love it as well. The next one is Narasimha by Missal. Now this is a mythological fiction in which we see the story of one of the 10 avatars of Vishnu, namely Narasimha, in 3 separate books. The first book is Narasimha, the second one is Hiranyakashyap, and the third one, which is not yet released, is Prahlad. And I can say of the first 2 books that I've read in the trilogy, this one is really awesome and perfect for beginners, because while you start reading the book, you will definitely not be able to believe how fast you're reading this. I can easily say that while I read this book, it was like 2 years past and I was not able to understand the speed at which I was reading this book because it didn't take a lot of time at all. Even if you're a slow reader, I'm sure that you'll definitely read this book very quickly because the writing of Missal is very smooth and very easy to comprehend, and I can easily say any of his books that I read so far can be recommended to beginners, but I'm specifically recommending this one because it is very fast paced and it's also a very common story that most people who know Hindu mythology know. So even if you don't know Hindu mythology, I'm sure that you can go forward and read this because it is really well written and really well paced, so that you will not feel bored at all while reading this, and also it will keep you entertained the whole time. The next one is Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Now this is a middle grade book, but I can easily say that everyone in the world needs to read this book because it is very different from most of the books that I've read so far. And though it's a middle grade book, I can easily say that every adult or any other person who reads this can easily empathize with the main character in this one, named Augustus, who's an 8-year-old boy. He has had this different type of gene mutation due to which he has had multiple surgeries on his face, and because of all these surgeries that he has gone through, his face looks so different from that of normal people, and he has to deal with a lot of problems medically due to that itself. And because of all these complications, he has been homeschooled until he's 8 years old, and after that he's put into a school. Obviously he's going to get into a different environment from which he's used to, and all these chances are going to be magnified to a larger scale when he's put in between other kids who are normal, as we call them. Not everything that happens in this one for Augustus is really good. There are multiple things which happen very bad, but after all those things, there is always this ray of hope in the form of some good people who keep helping him and keep supporting him throughout, and it is really a very hopeful story. There are multiple points of sadness throughout the book, but I can easily say that once you finish reading this book, you will feel a lot more hopeful and you'll want to read a lot more positive stories like this one. The next one is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Now this is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, but the different thing about this retelling is that it is not the retelling of Alice, who's the main character of Alice in Wonderland, but it is the backstory of the antagonist of that story, the Queen of Hearts, and how she became such a cold-hearted, rude and mean person. I can definitely say while you read this book, you'll be able to see the sadness that has been imagined by the author for a person like the antagonist, who's the Queen of Hearts, to come in that story must have experienced, and all the bad things that she's put through in her life. Despite all the horrible things that happens to the Queen of Hearts in this one, she does maintain a positive attitude and she wants to do a lot of worthy things in her life. She has gone through a lot, yet she doesn't give up at all. Apart from all those things, in order to show that kind of a well-spirited person into a bad one, Obviously, the story is going to be a sad one and the ending is going to be sad as well. But the development of this character and the world of Alice in Wonderland, that is Wonderland, that is written by the author himself in the beginning, has been reimagined really well by the author in this one, and each and every element of the original story is put into proper use and it is very atmospheric. I'm sure that you will definitely feel like you are inside the story while you're reading this one. The next one is Carry On by Rowell. I've talked about this book many times in this channel already. It's been just like 3 months since I read the book. But in every video that I've talked about this book, I've always said that this is a book which is very friendly for beginners because it is a huge book, okay? It's over 500 pages long, but it is perfect for beginners because of the fact that it has very short chapters, and as I said before, the writing in this one is also very easy to comprehend and go with the flow, okay? You will not be wanting to keep the book aside and try to process all the things that you've read before. You can just go with the flow and enjoy the story as a whole, and it is also very funny, okay? Despite all the other things, it's very funny. There's also a good touch of romance throughout the book, but I can definitely say that more than any of the other aspects of this book which will drive you to read it, it will be the humor and the funny things that happen inside the book, starting from the dialogue to the things that happen in the plot. A lot of things that are put into this one are funny. It is a dark book, okay? It's a bit dark in terms that it is a bit darker in tone since it's younger adult, but I can definitely say it's a really funny book, and that humor sense will definitely make you read the book continuously. The next one is the most favorite book of mine so far in this year, and it is Prey by Michael Crichton. This is a science fiction book, but it also has a lot of elements of thriller that's incorporated into the story, and that's one thing which will definitely make you flip the pages continuously. It might be intimidating at times to read certain parts of this book because it goes in very deep when it comes to programming and technology as a whole, but I'm saying that it will be very much useful for beginners because it seems like the author is having a conversation with you while he's telling the story. It's not just like he writes certain stuff and just assumes that the reader who's reading this book knows all the things that he's talking about. He goes into detail and explains everything that he's talking about in the book to the reader, and it felt like I was included in the story by the author a lot while he was progressing the story. It was like he was having a conversation with me and trying to tell me what are all the things that he's talking about in this book, and that made it a lot more special for me and a lot more interesting as well. So definitely, if you're a person who likes nice thrilling books and well engaging books, like just as I said before, the author's having a conversation with you, then you can definitely try this one. It's a bit huge, but I'm sure that it will be worth the read. The next one is another mythological fiction, and it is Sita, Warrior of Mithila by Amish. I've recommended this book in many other lists also before, but I'm including this specifically in this one because I told that after you finish reading all the books in this list, you will definitely feel like you want to pick up more books. This is definitely one such book because in this trilogy we see the backstories of 3 of the most important characters inside the Ramayana. The first one being Ram, the next one is Sita, and the last one is Ravan. So far it's going to be continuing, the series is going to be continuing, but I can easily say that of all the 3 books that are out until now, this is the best because the backstory of Sita seems to be written in the most original form compared to the other 2 main characters, and I can easily say that there are multiple things that are revealed in this book that most people like me might not have the knowledge of before having read the book. And the series is going to continue on sometime in the future, but until now you can read the first 3 books in any order. It does not affect the other 2 books you're going to read, so I'd highly suggest you to start with this one because this is the best of all the 3. After this I'll say Raman and at last Ram, but definitely this is one which is suitable for beginners as well as any other reader. The next one is an illustrated book, and it is Brazen by Penelope Bagieu. This is designed in such a way that it is suitable for anyone who's over 13 years in age, but I can definitely say anyone who's even an adult can read this. It's an illustrated book, just as I said before. The illustrations in this one are just very, very beautiful. You can just see it. It's not fiction, okay? It's non-fiction, and it talks about many women from the past who had to deal with a lot of adversities just because of the fact that they were women in the history of the world, and how they have changed the world in multiple aspects. Some of them have not at all been talked about in any type of history, but this book has made it a point to recognize some of the women who have not been recognized at all in history and proving their importance and significance in the development of the world as a whole. I learned a lot of new things about this book. Since it's an illustrated book, you might think that it might be a quick read to go through compared to the other books, but it's definitely not a very quick read. It will take a little bit of time because it has a lot of things that you can read, and the illustrations are also really gorgeous. You will definitely spend a lot of time just looking at the illustrations itself because they are all so beautiful, and the quality of this book is very top notch. Of all the books that I've selected in this list, this is the only one which costs a lot more. It is a bit more expensive compared to all the other books in the list, but I can definitely say it'll be worth an investment if you buy this book. The next one is a very famous movie, and it is Life of Pi by Yann Martel. I'm sure even if you've not heard about the book, you've definitely heard about the movie or even watched it. If you watched the movie, you definitely know how much compelling this story is and how unrealistic yet very mystical the entire journey of this book is. The main reason why I'm recommending this for beginners is also the suspense element of the book. You don't know when the human is going to die or what the tiger is going to do the whole time, because every time we get to a new chapter in this one, there is some form of threat, either psychologically or physically, around them. Since it's a story about life or death itself, and it's definitely made sure in the beginning of the book itself that there is definitely going to be life by the end of the story. We will have the dilemma whether the author has talked about the truth in the beginning of the book or not. And of all the other things which just staggered me a lot after reading this book is that it's based on true events that happened around the world, and how certain things when said separately can be believed as truths, but when put together cannot be believed to have happened truly at all. It just amazed me a lot, and I think I read this book in just like one sitting. It was really amazing. If you're Indian, I'm sure that you'll be able to relate with multiple aspects of this book. It talks about the story that happened in the 70s, but even then, that Indian flavor of the book is made to be felt really hard. The next one is Release by Patrick Ness. This is a young adult contemporary story, but it also has a supernatural element that's going on inside the book. The reason why I'm recommending this one is because the entire story of this book takes place within a 24-hour time span, and it is made to be felt by us, by the author in this one, because there's this deadline within which some of the things in this book, we have like two separate plot lines that we follow, and both of them collide towards the climax of the story. It might seem like both of these plots which we are reading doesn't seem to be interrelated in any way at all, but towards the end the link between these two plot lines is made to be felt, and I can also say that it is pretty much convincing towards the end. Both the characters that we follow as main ones in both the plot lines are really well fleshed out, and their stories are made to be felt by the reader while we are reading this. And since it's a story that is very much anchored in the characters rather than the plot as a whole itself, I'm definitely sure that many people will be able to relate with the things that the characters are going through, even if they are not able to relate the characters themselves. And it will definitely make you want to read the book continuously and finish it up and pick up many more books because it is that much interesting. Next we have Batman Nightwalker by Morrie. Now this is a young adult retelling of the origin story of Batman. Okay, it's not even the origin story, but considering Batman, that is Bruce Wayne, as a young adult who's 17 years old, and his story with this Nightwalker named Madeline, and how their two paths get interlinked, and what's the reason behind Batman actually going into Arkham Asylum and getting in touch with this particular Nightwalker named Madeline. What's the power of Madeline, and what is the reason behind she interacting with Bruce alone rather than any of the other people inside the asylum who work there. All those things are really well portrayed by the author. It is also a very atmospheric book. Most of the times in this book, when the story is happening, there's a lot of rain that's going on, so it will be perfect to read this during a rainy season when everything is dull and it is very cloudy. I read it during such a day, and I just enjoyed it a lot. And also the pacing of this one was extremely fast, and also the writing of the author Morrie, it's very digestible. That's one of the main reasons why I'm recommending this for beginners. The next one is a very famous book, and it is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Okay, the author's name is Sarah J. Maas, not Maas. Okay, I was also thinking that it was Sarah J. Maas, but the author herself has said that it is Maas. We cannot pronounce a person's name in a wrong way. So this one is a young adult fantasy, and it is very epic. Okay, I can say that there are two things which will keep you wanting to read this book continuously. The first one is the romance. The next one is the action sequences that have been packed throughout the book. It is a story dealing with a female assassin who is trying to make her way in order to become a king's guard. That's the only way for her survival. Otherwise, she'll be put to death because of some of the bad things that she has done in her path of being an assassin. And I can also say that rather than most of the things, the romance is one of the main elements which will definitely drive you a lot while reading this one. It has a love triangle, but it is also very compelling to read. It's so much fun compared to any of the other things. I'm not saying it's funny, okay, I'm just saying that it's fun. You will not be able to put it down at all because it will be so interesting to read. Okay, if you're a beginner, I'm sure that you'll find this book a lot interesting because it deals with a lot of things in different directions, but all of those things are interlinked in this main character who's Selena, and there are two different sides of the main character which will make readers of different kinds like the book a lot. The first one is the assassin side, and the next one is the girl side. Okay, she just wants to be a very cute girl, just like most people want to, and you can just see it's being represented in the cover itself. In the front side, she in the costume of an assassin, and in the back side, she is wearing a gown. These two sides of the main character are balanced very well by the author, if you ask me, and that's one of the main reasons you will be driven to read this a lot faster. I have not finished reading the series, but I can definitely say that this is one book which is very suitable for beginners. The next one that I'm recommending is a romance book, and it is a very famous romance book as well. It is P.S. I Love You by Cecelia Ahern. This is definitely one of my most favorite romance books. Okay, it is a very sad yet hopeful story. I'm sure that anyone who reads this will want to read a lot more of this author as well as stories like this one in the future. The movie of this book is very famous. I have not watched the movie yet, but I've definitely read the book and enjoyed it a lot. Okay, while I got into the book, I thought that okay, it is very much hyped. I might not like it that much, but trust me, after just like getting past the first 2 chapters of the book itself, I was able to see why many people are loving this book a lot, because it seems so original and so true. Seeing the cover, it might seem like a mushy romance, but it's definitely not. It's a sad story. Okay, it happens after the death of one of the 2 main characters in the book, and I can say the presence of the dead main character is made to be felt because of the memories that the other character has and how we get to see those memories through her eyes. It's very beautiful, very hopeful and very sad, but I can definitely say though it's sad, it'll make you so happy after finishing reading it and you'll want to pick up a lot more books. The last 2 books that I'm recommending are non-fiction books. The first one is Attitude is Everything by Jeff Keller. Okay, this is a very tiny little self-help book which you can just sit down and read in like 2 or 3 hours maximum. It is just 120 pages long and it has 12 lessons. Okay, each and every chapter in this book is a lesson, and just as I said before, it's 120 pages long, so each and every lesson is not more than 10 pages long. Even in between all those lessons, we get very inspirational positive quotes that are put together by the author in this one. It is very suitable for beginners because it will help you develop this very important quality of having a positive attitude towards all the things that we face in life using all these 12 different lessons. And the author has included the change that a positive attitude has had in his life and how he was able to promote this as a brand. Okay, Attitude is Everything is not just this book, it's a huge brand, and all of those things have been started from this little seed called this book, and it's definitely suitable for anyone who's living out there. And I can easily say after reading this book, you'll have that sense of hope and positivity that you need in order to have a really successful and happy life. The last book in this list is yet another non-fiction book, and you might have seen it while I shook it now. It is definitely one of the most positive and inspirational books that you will ever read, and it is Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. Okay, it is about this professor named Morrie that the author Mitch Albom had, and because of certain things that happen in his life, Professor Morrie has had some nervous disorder, and because of that his body is paralyzed and he's losing the functionality of each and every one of his organs one at a time. And despite all these things, he doesn't give up that positive attitude that he has towards life, and even during the last few days which are just numbered in his life, he makes the life of many other people very happy and very much positive. His death is even shown as a really hope-giving thing in this one, and I'm definitely sure after reading this book you will just be filled with hope and a lot of positivity. Okay guys, those were all the 15 books that I wanted to recommend for beginners, and if you have any other better books and good books for beginners, don't forget to leave them in the comments below and share it with others. I'm sure that it will be helpful for a lot more people. And if you did find this video interesting, enjoyable and useful in some way or the other, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel because I publish new videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.